Some of the brightest minds, both black and white, are battling a fight they are all too often destined to lose. In a world steeped in stigma, where watchful eyes and societal prejudices press down, there are black stars who, despite fame and fortune, find the courage to live openly as gay. Yet fate can be cruel, and many of these brave souls meet tragic ends, leaving this world in pain and isolation. Today, we remember the 21 heartbreaking lives of Black LGBTQ+ icons, extraordinary talents whose journeys were cut short under sorrowful circumstances. Sylvester, the disco queen who shined brighter than most and left the world like a true diva. Born Sylvester James in 1947, he became a disco legend, unforgettable for the hit that defined an era, "You Make Me Feel Mighty Real." But Sylvester was more than music. He was a symbol, a beacon for the LGBTQ+ community. He devoted his life to his art while boldly living authentically in a world stacked with prejudice and pressure against homosexuality. His voice didn't just entertain, it moved millions. And yet, fate would claim him in silence and sorrow. Sylvester wasn't just known for his talent, he was celebrated for his unapologetic spirit. Coming out as gay during a time of intense discrimination, he embraced his sexuality openly and fearlessly. He demanded freedom of expression in every aspect of his life, refusing to let society's narrow views define him. His music, his persona, his very existence became a statement. Live freely, love boldly, and never hide. In 1984, Sylvester began noticing strange changes in his body. Fatigue that wouldn't lift, rapid weight loss, relentless aches. He tried to brush it off as stress. But the symptoms only worsened. When he finally went to the doctor, the diagnosis hit him like a lightning bolt. HIV already progressed into AIDS. At a time when the disease was feared, misunderstood, and untreatable, those words were devastating. His body had been silently attacked, and by the time he understood, it was too late. Everything changed. Nights became battles of fever, pain, and exhaustion. Yet even as his body betrayed him, Sylvester carried himself with the poise of a true diva, refusing to show weakness or surrender to pity. On stage and at every event, he remained dazzling, determined to let the world see the star, not the illness. By December 1988, his health was failing fast. Yet, he attended a small Christmas gathering with friends and family, trying to celebrate amid the pain. In the middle of laughter and cheer, a sharp, unbearable agony coursed through him. He forced a smile, but his vision blurred, his body screaming, and he felt the weight of mortality pressing close. After the party, he returned home quietly, alone, exhausted, racked with pain. The silence of his room became his only companion. On December 16, 1988, Sylvester James passed away in solitude, without a loved one by his side. The world lost more than a disco legend. It lost a fighter, a symbol, a voice that had given so much to music and his community. His death is a somber reminder of the suffering endured by the LGBTQ+ community during the height of the HIV/AIDS crisis, and of the ignorance and neglect surrounding the disease at the time. Sylvester's legacy, however, remains eternal, a life lived fiercely, authentically, and unapologetically. Paris Dupree, the legendary creator of voguing, passed away quietly, leaving behind a legacy that continues to shape the ballroom world. As the founder of the House of DRI, she was more than an icon. She was a pioneer who transformed dance and culture. Paris brought voguing to life, a bold, expressive dance form that skyrocketed into mainstream attention in the 1980s and 1990s, largely thanks to the documentary Paris is Burning. The film immortalized her artistry, yet behind the fame and applause lay a life marked by struggles few knew. Like many in the LGBTQ+ community of her time, Paris lived freely, passionately, and without restraint, a daring life in an era when knowledge and protections were limited. But this openness carried hidden risks. One night, while performing, she suffered an unexpected fall. Soon after, fatigue, dizziness, and slow-healing sores began to take their toll. When she sought medical care, the diagnosis was devastating: HIV/AIDS, a disease that slowly consumed her body. Even as her health declined, Paris continued to appear at community events, her radiant smile concealing the pain beneath. She fought to stay visible, to keep her presence alive, yet isolation and lack of support turned her final years into a quiet, lonely struggle. By 2011, she lived alone in a modest New York apartment. Though her career had soared, her final days were spent in solitude. Her biological family had drifted away, torn apart by societal judgment and lifestyle differences. Weary, frail, and alone, Paris faced her illness and loneliness with diminishing strength. One night, a sudden, sharp pain overcame her. Her weakened body could not move or call for help. In the cold silence of her room, she succumbed to the agony, passing away unnoticed. It was only when neighbors were alerted by the smell from her apartment that the world learned she was gone. Paris Dupri's death was more than the loss of a brilliant artist. It was a stark reminder of those who dedicate their lives to their communities yet remain unseen, uncared for, and unrecognized. The woman who once lit up every stage and ballroom left this world in solitude, her final moments spent in darkness, away from the love and support she had earned 1,000 times over. James Baldwin, the exiled writer who battled life until his very last breath. One of the most powerful literary voices of the 20th century, Baldwin devoted himself to fighting for the rights of Black people and the LGBTQ+ community. But his story was never just about literary triumphs or social activism. It was also a relentless struggle against stomach cancer, a disease thought to have grown from years of heavy smoking, the crushing pressures of living openly as a gay man, and the isolating weight of society's judgment. Sleepless nights, violent coughing fits, and the emotional strain of his activism slowly eroded his body. By 1987, Baldwin's stomach cancer had reached its final stage. Treatments offered little hope. His last days were consumed by excruciating pain, yet his mind remained fierce and alive. He continued to write, every word still burning with the passion of his lifelong fight for justice and hope. But the agony inside him only deepened, leaving his frail body powerless. One morning, as the pale light of dawn filtered through the small window of his home in St. Paul-de-Vence, a wave of pain unlike anything before struck him. He tried to rise, but his body betrayed him. The relentless ache paralyzed him, leaving him unable to move or call for help. His vision blurred, and in the stillness of that room he slipped away, without a final word. Baldwin's death marked more than the end of a remarkable life. It was a quiet tragedy. Though surrounded by friends and family, he could never fully escape the loneliness that haunted him. Living openly as a gay man had carved deep wounds into his soul, keeping him in a persistent state of estrangement and solitude. His passing was an immeasurable loss. He never lived to see the full change he had fought so passionately for. Bayard Rustin, the brilliant strategist of the civil rights movement, remains one of history's most overlooked heroes. A pioneer whose fingerprints shaped the 1963 March on Washington and who served as a trusted advisor to Martin Luther King Jr., Rustin's contributions were monumental. Yet, despite his pivotal role, recognition eluded him, largely because of who he loved. As a gay man in a time of pervasive prejudice, Rustin was forced to live in the shadows. He carried the weight of his identity quietly, never fully revealing himself to the world. That quiet life, however, was far from easy. It was marked by loneliness and struggles that few could ever understand. By the late 1980s, the HIV/AIDS epidemic tore through the gay community, and Rustin was not spared. Limited knowledge about sexual health and protection led to his contraction of a merciless disease. Fatigue, loss of appetite, and the slow weakening of his body became impossible to ignore. At first, he chalked up the stomach pains to stress from his relentless work. But when the pain returned sharper, more insistent, he knew something grave was happening. One frigid winter evening in New York, the pain became unbearable. Rustin lay on his bed, too weak to move, trapped in a body betraying him. Violent coughing fits racked his frail frame, and a dim light cast long shadows over a life defined by courage yet lived in quiet solitude. His vision blurred, his heart, valiant and steadfast, finally gave way. The room fell into stillness, as if the tireless hopes and battles he waged for justice had vanished in a single unnoticed moment. When his partner, Walter Nagel, returned, he found Rustin lying there, peaceful, yet tragically alone. Rustin's death was more than the loss of a civil rights fighter. It was a stark reminder of the pain endured by those forced to hide their true selves, a testament to the isolation that countless gay men faced during those years, and a solemn reflection on the cost of courage in a world not yet ready to accept him. Willie Ninja, the father of voguing, was a legend whose spirit never fully healed. As one of the pioneers of the voguing movement and the founder of the House of Ninja, he became an icon, celebrated as a dancer, choreographer, and central figure in the groundbreaking documentary Paris is Burning, which brought voguing into the spotlight and cemented its place in mainstream culture. With boundless talent and relentless creativity, Willie made voguing not just a dance, but a vital part of the ballroom community and LGBTQ+ culture. Yet behind the glittering stage lights, his early life was marked by wild parties and unprotected sexual encounters, a reality few understood or spoke about at the time. This freedom came at a cost. Years later, he was diagnosed with AIDS, discovered only after a hospital visit. Despite his fame, Willie faced his illness largely alone. With no health insurance, he depended on the generosity of the community, struggling through pain and isolation as his condition worsened. Even as audiences celebrated his breathtaking performances, the support he needed most was scarce. By 2006, complications from AIDS, including heart failure, had taken a heavy toll. One morning in a New York hospital, his body could no longer endure the suffering. Financial hardship and distance from the ballroom scene meant he faced his final days in solitude, with no one to call upon for help. When the news of his passing spread, the ballroom community came together in a heartfelt tribute. Dancers rose to the stage, voguing in honor of the man who had shaped an entire art form. Willie Ninja's legacy is eternal. It lives in every step, every movement, and in the hearts of all who admired him. His spirit dances on. Essex Hemphill, the warrior poet who faced life's storms head-on. A blazing force in American literature, Essex Hemphill's work, whether in ceremonies, prose, or poetry, was deeply personal, activist-driven, and unflinchingly honest. Celebrated as the poetic voice of the Black LGBTQ+ community, he used his words to expose painful truths in a society still drowning in prejudice during the late 20th century. As a Black gay man, he faced discrimination not only from the world at large but often within his own community. He lived a liberated, fearless life, constantly searching for love, even while knowing that loneliness was an inevitable companion. In the 1980s and early 1990s, as HIV/AIDS began to devastate the gay community, awareness and understanding of the disease were limited, and Essex, like many others, underestimated its danger. Fleeting romances and late nights in the ballroom scene made the necessity of protection feel distant, even irrelevant. Knowledge of HIV prevention was scarce, and the consequences were deadly. Over time, Essex began to feel the toll of his freedom. His body weakened, mysterious pains intensified, and sores spread across his skin, signs of AIDS that could no longer be ignored. When he finally sought medical help, he was told he was HIV positive and already in the final stages of the disease. Yet Essex refused hospitalization. He returned to his small Philadelphia room, the space where his life had been devoted to art and activism, to face his illness on his own terms. Frail and exhausted, sleepless nights, relentless coughing fits, and unbearable pain became his reality. In those final moments, despite a lifetime of fighting, he endured alone, with little comfort or care. When Essex Hemphill died, there were no crowds of colleagues or community members surrounding him, those he had fought so passionately for. His room was silent, devoid of mourning, though a few close friends and loved ones were there, powerless to ease his suffering. His unfinished works lay scattered across the table, whispering the tragic story of a man who had faced isolation, rejection, and the deadly impact of the HIV/AIDS crisis. Essex Hemphill's death was more than the loss of a gifted poet. It was the heartbreak of a generation living in ignorance, denied the support and understanding they so desperately needed. Ron Simmons, the hero who fell to an invisible scythe in the heart of Washington, D.C., at the close of the 20th century. Born in 1950, Ron Simmons embodied resilience and courage. As the director of Us Helping Us, a groundbreaking organization supporting Black gay men in the fight against HIV/AIDS, he was far more than a leader. He was a silent hero. Deeply respected and admired, he guided, uplifted, and brought hope to those battling a devastating disease, illuminating paths once cloaked in darkness. Yet, the fiercest storm of his life would not spare him. Living a liberated gay lifestyle, Ron unknowingly exposed himself to the dangers of HIV/AIDS. Brief romances and vibrant nightlife during the early years of the epidemic, combined with unprotected encounters and limited knowledge of health precautions, would ultimately bring tragedy. Even as fatigue and sores began to surface, he concealed his illness out of fear of stigma, enduring a silent, lonely struggle that deepened with each passing day. It was only when his condition took a sharp turn, severe stomach pain and rapid health decline, that Ron sought medical help. Tests revealed the unthinkable. He had contracted HIV, a diagnosis that struck fear into his heart. The disease had already begun its relentless assault. Not long after, complications from heart failure forced him into hospitalization. Even in the hospital, amidst unbearable pain, Ron clung to hope. But with each day, his strength waned, and nothing could reverse the tide of his illness. In 2020, as his health deteriorated further, he was admitted once again, this time for the final chapter of his life. Overwhelmed by exhaustion and suffering, he lay in his hospital bed, largely alone. Though his devoted partner stood faithfully by his side, Ron felt the weight of years spent in solitude, the silent battles society ignored. His death was tragic not only because HIV/AIDS claimed the life of a resilient man, but because it robbed the world of recognizing his sacrifices, his courage, and his profound contributions, until it was far too late. Tony Washington, the disco voice that once set hearts on fire, now lost to time. Picture the 1970s. Tony Washington, a shining star of the Dynamic Superiors, a group that electrified the disco scene and dared to confront the world with a shocking truth. He was the first Black singer in R&B and disco to openly embrace his homosexuality, a brave act in a world ruled by prejudice and fear. Tony lived in an era where being openly gay meant facing relentless discrimination. Rejection came not just from society, but from the very music industry he sought to conquer. Night after night, he performed in dimly lit clubs, not merely chasing a dream, but hiding the pain of loneliness and the sting of a career slipping away. Yet the weight of those dark nights, combined with a reckless lifestyle and unsafe encounters in a time of little awareness, led him into the merciless grip of HIV/AIDS. By 1989, Tony Washington was confined to a rundown apartment in Washington, D.C., surrounded by nothing but solitude and illness. The room, its windows veiled with tattered curtains, became a silent witness to his suffering. Day by day, AIDS ravaged his body, leaving him gaunt, frail, and exhausted. One fateful night, he collapsed, too weak to call for help. Death came quietly, unnoticed. No one knew until days later, when a friend arrived for a final visit and was stopped by the locked door and the overpowering stench. Inside, Tony lay lifeless, a frail figure staring blankly at a cracked ceiling, as if his spirit had already drifted away. No one had been there. No comfort. No farewell. Only silence and sorrow. Tony Washington's death was more than the end of a gifted life. It was a stark, heartbreaking reminder of a world that rejected him, his talent, his truth, and ultimately, his very existence. Glenn Burke. The disappearance of a baseball hero. Glenn Burke, one of the first professional baseball players to openly live as a gay man, faced a world steeped in prejudice and ignorance, especially about HIV and AIDS. In a time when society offered little acceptance, he had to hide his true self. Seeking connection, he turned to unsafe relationships, leaving himself vulnerable to HIV without the protection he deserved. Despite his extraordinary talent on the field, coming out cost him everything. Teammates turned away, MLB leadership abandoned him, and his promising career crumbled. Isolated, Burke drifted from hotel rooms to small clubs, fighting to survive as AIDS slowly ravaged his body, stealing his strength and his hope. His final days were marked by loneliness and pain. Friends distanced themselves. The sports world he once shined in offered no refuge. Alone, he faced the relentless progression of his illness, yearning for comfort that never came. In 1995, at a nursing home in Oakland, California, Glenn Burke's journey quietly ended. His frail body could no longer hold on. Only his sister Luther and a handful of close friends were there, witnesses to the solitude that had defined his last moments. AIDS had drained him completely. In the silent room, he passed. No former teammates, no cheering fans, no world recognition marked his departure. One of the first to live openly in a society that refused to understand, Burke left quietly. His death was a tragic end to a life marked by injustice and sorrow, a life that never received the love, honor, or recognition it so desperately deserved. Octavia Butler, the fateful fall of the queen of science fiction. Born in 1947, Octavia Butler rose to prominence as a visionary writer, shaping the genre with masterpieces like Kindred and Parable of the Sower. But her brilliance extended beyond storytelling. She was a trailblazer, weaving pressing social issues, human rights, and gender equality into the very fabric of her narratives. Behind her groundbreaking works, however, lay a life of quiet struggle, particularly around her identity as a lesbian. While she never publicly discussed her personal life, within literary and artistic circles, she was known to love women, though she deliberately kept her relationships out of the spotlight. In a world rife with prejudice, she guarded her privacy fiercely, navigating love in silence. Still, Butler remained a steadfast advocate for equality and LGBTQ+ acceptance, even if she never openly declared her own truth. By the 1990s, severe back pain and chronic fatigue began to shadow her life. The pain worsened, her body weakening with every passing year. Medical tests revealed a devastating diagnosis, a degenerative spinal disease that gradually stripped her mobility and left her in constant agony. Yet, despite the relentless illness, Butler refused to surrender her spirit. She continued to write, pouring her energy into the worlds and characters she had long nurtured. But as her body grew frailer, the disease robbed her of the simple act of holding a pen, silencing the stories she still carried within. Eventually, her resilience met the harshest test. On February 24, 2006, Octavia Butler passed away quietly in her Lake Forest Park home. Alone, she collapsed, her vision fading, her body unresponsive, leaving behind a stillness that echoed the loss of a brilliant life cut short. Friends and family were close, yet in that moment, there was no one to catch her. Speculation suggests she fell during a dizzy spell, a tragic and silent end to a life that had battled so much. When she was discovered, the room held only quiet and the heartbreaking reality of a luminary lost to illness. She departed before witnessing the societal changes she had long championed, before seeing a world more just, more accepting, and more equal for the LGBTQ+ community she so quietly but fiercely represented. Audre Lorde. Audre Lorde, a voice of unyielding strength and hope, silenced too soon. A Black lesbian poet and fierce feminist activist, she devoted her life to fighting for the rights of women and the LGBTQ+ community. Her legacy was not only defined by her powerful words but by her relentless struggle against discrimination, isolation, and societal prejudice. From an early age, Lorde boldly came out as a lesbian, a daring act in a world that was often unaccepting, even within her own family. Yet she never wavered. Her relationships with women were rarely acknowledged publicly, forcing her to navigate life with parts of herself hidden from view. Still, she persisted, using her writing to empower those who, like her, had been marginalized. In the early 1980s, as her literary influence continued to grow, Lorde began to notice changes in her body. A sharp pain in her chest was initially dismissed, but it worsened over time. One day, while bathing, she discovered a lump. Medical tests confirmed her fears: breast cancer. By then, the disease had already advanced. Even as her health declined, Lorde never stopped writing or advocating. Her body weakened, consumed by a disease still poorly understood and under-researched, yet her spirit remained unbroken. In her final years, Lorde endured excruciating pain, yet her resolve never faltered. In Sanka, U.S. Virgin Islands, she spent her last days surrounded by love. Lying in bed, her eyes shone with the same unwavering spirit that had defined her life. In the arms of her partner, Gloria Thursday Joseph, and those she cherished, she whispered, "Warrior survivor," before departing. Cancer had claimed her body, but it could never claim her legacy. Through every struggle, she inspired countless others to fight for justice, equality, and freedom. Audre Lorde's death was not an end, it was a passing of the torch. The values she lived and championed continue to ignite courage in generations striving for acceptance, dignity, and liberation. Alvin Ailey. Alvin Ailey, the quiet brilliance behind a dance that spoke louder than words. Born in 1931, Alvin Ailey became a beacon in the world of dance, founding the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater and weaving modern dance into the very soul of Black America. His talent was unmatched, a source of pride for his community, a star whose every movement lit up the stage. Yet behind the applause and the spotlight, Ailey carried a hidden pain that shadowed his entire life. This silence began in a society that rejected his truth. In the late 1980s, he noticed strange changes in his body, unrelenting fatigue, weakness he could not explain, fevers that came without warning. After countless tests, the diagnosis came: HIV/AIDS, a disease feared, misunderstood, and stigmatized. The news struck him like a cruel curtain closing. Ailey had already spent a lifetime hiding his sexuality. Now, he had to hide his failing health too. To shield his company, his reputation, and his legacy from judgment, he asked friends and loved ones to keep the truth secret, telling them only that he had a blood disease. In 1989, as his condition worsened, he passed away quietly in a New York City hospital. His body, exhausted and frail, stilled like a final, fading dance. Only close friends and a few devoted members of his company were there, standing silently as he slipped away. No farewells, no whispered regrets. Alvin Ailey's death was more than the loss of a dance legend. It was the story of a man burdened by prejudice, forced into solitude, and yet leaving behind a legacy that still moves the world. Joseph Beam. Joseph Beam, the overlooked voice of a generation. He was a trailblazing writer who brought the lives of Black gay men into the light through his work in the Life, a Black gay anthology. His career was a relentless mission to amplify the stories of a community long silenced and marginalized. Beam's pen gave life to narratives that had never been told, demanding recognition for those society refused to see. Yet, Beam lived in a perilous era. AIDS was rampant, fear and ignorance consumed the public, and gay men faced constant stigma. Through it all, he poured himself into his writing, refusing to rest. Though he had a small circle of support, loneliness often shadowed him, pushing him to society's edges. Even as his body betrayed him, Beam kept his illness a secret, hiding the fact that he had contracted HIV. By 1988, his health began to crumble. One morning, drained and weak, he still pressed on with his writing. Persistent fevers, unrelenting pain, and shortness of breath became his constant companions. Each day, his strength waned, yet his dedication never faltered. When he could no longer care for himself, a concerned friend went to his apartment, only to find Beam lying still on his bed, fragile and motionless. In solitude and silence, Joseph Beam passed away. AIDS had quietly claimed him, leaving behind the profound emptiness of a community too long abandoned. His death was not just the loss of a man, but a stark reminder of voices unheard and lives overlooked. Luther Vandross. Luther Vandross, a music legend who left the world quietly, remains one of the most iconic voices in R&B history. With timeless hits like Dance with My Father and Here and Now, he captured hearts across the globe. Yet behind the glamour and accolades, he guarded his personal life fiercely, especially his sexuality. Rumors of a long-term relationship circulated, but Vandross chose discretion, shielding himself from the relentless gaze of the public and media. Years of tireless dedication, grueling schedules, and the constant pressure to create began to take their toll. Unbeknownst to him, diabetes was silently damaging his body. He ignored the fatigue, the slow-healing wounds, pushing himself to keep performing and recording. But the disease grew stronger, weakening his immune system and turning every studio session and tour into a battle. By 2003, a severe stroke, a complication of diabetes, left him largely incapacitated and confined to a wheelchair. The dream of performing on stage again slipped away, leaving him to watch his own body deteriorate, powerless to stop it. On a quiet morning in 2005, at a hospital in Edison, New Jersey, Luther Vandross passed away in silence. Frail in his wheelchair, his eyes closed for the final time, as family and his managers stood nearby, witnessing each fading breath until life quietly slipped away. Though his passing was mourned deeply, the sorrow was heightened by the truth of a music legend who spent his final years in solitude, never fully able to live as his authentic self. Yet even as his voice faded from the world, Luther Vandross' music continues to resonate, living on in the hearts of fans and securing his eternal legacy in the soul of R&B. Al Sharpton. A bittersweet chapter in the life of a gifted musician. Alfred Charles, a remarkable artist of the 1970s, poured his soul into music that spoke directly to the Black and LGBTQ+ communities. While his name may not ring familiar to everyone, those who experienced his heartfelt melodies carry them forever. He lived in a time when being openly gay was met with prejudice, forcing him to hide his true self to safeguard both his career and personal life. Engaging in unprotected relationships, unaware of the looming threat of HIV/AIDS that haunted society then, ultimately led to his own devastating diagnosis. Even as his health declined, Alfred refused to retreat. He remained present at artistic gatherings and stood firmly in support of the LGBTQ+ community. Yet the disease was relentless. AIDS slowly ravaged his body, leaving him weaker day by day. Sleepless nights and relentless fevers drained his spirit. Then one morning, an unusual silence fell over his apartment. A neighbor, long accustomed to the vibrant music and laughter spilling from Alfred's home, sensed that something was wrong. No melodies. No footsteps. No signs of life. They knocked. No answer. Entering cautiously, they found Alfred lying still on the floor, pale, frail, unable to respond. The apartment was eerily quiet, unfinished records scattered, unmounted artwork leaning against the walls, a stark testament to a life interrupted. HIV/AIDS had stripped him of his vitality, leaving behind only fragility. Alfred Charles passed away alone, with no one there to hold him. Yet his music, his artistry, his spirit lived on, echoing endlessly in the hearts of those who loved him and the communities he touched. Jackie Shane. A trailblazer whose voice and spirit refused to be silenced, even in the face of a world that often rejected her. Jackie Shane wasn't just a gifted soul singer of the 1960s, she was one of the first Black artists to live boldly as her true self. Born in 1940, she came of age in a time when people like her were seen as outsiders, ostracized, and discriminated against. Too feminine to be accepted as a man, yet not fully recognized as a woman, Jackie embraced her identity fearlessly, dressing in dazzling clothes, applying makeup with flair, and performing on stage with unshakable authenticity. On stage, she didn't just sing. She declared, "I exist. I'm here. I am me. No hiding. No apologies." But even the strongest spirit is not immune to the passage of time. In her later years, Jackie withdrew to a quiet home in Nashville, Tennessee. What had once been a sanctuary of peace slowly became a place where she faced her own decline in solitude. Years of high blood pressure and diabetes had weakened her body. She grew frail, confined to bed as her legs swelled and sores formed from lying too long. Fatigue stole her appetite and her ability to care for herself. The phone rarely rang. No cheers. No applause. Only the shallow rhythm of breath in a silent room. One winter morning in 2016, the lone neighbor who still checked on her knocked and received no answer. When they entered, Jackie Shane lay motionless in her bed, pale, eyes barely closed, surrounded by the bottles of her long-fought battle with illness. She had passed away quietly. No headlines. No outcry. It wasn't until the news slowly spread that the LGBTQ+ community remembered and celebrated her. Jackie Shane had lived authentically, bravely, and unapologetically, a true icon whose light refused to fade, even when the world wasn't ready to see it. Vernita Gray, a life of courage and unseen triumph. Vernita Gray, a trailblazer, a fighter, a woman who dared to live her truth in a world that wasn't ready for it. Born in 1949, Vernita was more than just a pioneering Black LGBTQ+ activist. She was a symbol of courage, authenticity, and love that refused to be hidden. She lived openly, loved openly, and challenged the harsh boundaries society tried to impose. Vernita didn't just fight for marriage equality, she made history as the first woman in Illinois to legally marry her same-sex partner, a small victory that carried the weight of decades of tireless advocacy. Yet even as she championed the rights of others, life's harsh realities would not spare her. As the years passed, Vernita began to feel unrelenting fatigue and vague, lingering pains. She brushed them off at first, attributing them to the natural process of aging. But when her body weakened and her weight began to drop dramatically, the truth could no longer be ignored. One morning, waking with excruciating chest pain, she sought medical help, and the diagnosis stunned her world. Cancer had silently spread throughout her body. In Chicago, the city where she had poured her heart into justice, Vernita Gray passed away. Her final battle fought not on the streets or in courtrooms, but in the quiet of a hospital room. Her body frail, her eyes fading, she reflected the long journey she had walked, from public marches and passionate speeches for equality to the lonely moments when the world seemed to turn its back on her. Though she left without the full recognition her sacrifices deserved, Vernita's legacy cannot be measured in medals or accolades. It lives in her courage, her perseverance, and the fire she ignited in everyone she inspired. She devoted her life to equality and justice, and even if she did not live to see the world she dreamed of, Vernita Gray never stopped fighting. Until her last breath, she remained a beacon of hope, a testament to resilience, and a reminder that true heroism often goes unseen. Billy Strayhorn, the final chapter of a musical genius. Behind Duke Ellington's greatest masterpieces was Billy Strayhorn, a composer whose brilliance transcended time. His melodies shaped the world of jazz, yet behind the music was a man navigating the harsh realities of being both black and gay in mid-century America. Strayhorn lived with quiet dignity, never hiding who he was. He discovered love, companionship, and artistic fulfillment, pouring his soul into every note. But life's cruel hand began to strike too early. By the early 1960s, fatigue, pain, and weakness started to shadow him. At first, he dismissed them as stress, as exhaustion. Yet the pain grew, relentless and unforgiving. When he finally sought help, the diagnosis was devastating: esophageal cancer, a disease that would strip him of his voice, his strength, and eventually his life. In 1967, Billy Strayhorn passed away in New York City, surrounded by friends, yet carrying the silent weight of a man who had given so much to music without ever receiving the full recognition he deserved. Though Ellington's name often shone brighter, Strayhorn's compositions continue to live on, timeless and haunting. His passing marked more than the end of a musical era. It was a reminder of the countless black queer artists whose brilliance went uncelebrated in their lifetimes. Josephine Baker, a dazzling icon whose light shone across the world, yet whose final days were marked by loneliness. Born in 1906 in Missouri, she rose to become one of the first black performers to achieve international stardom. In the 1920s and 1930s, Paris embraced her as a superstar, a symbol of the Harlem Renaissance and a fearless pioneer for the freedom and empowerment of black women. But behind the glitz and glamour, Josephine lived a hidden life. She was a lesbian, forming deep, passionate connections with fellow female artists and activists, truths she had to conceal to survive in a world that wouldn't accept her. By the 1970s, after dedicating herself to human rights and adopting 12 children from across the globe, Josephine faced crushing financial difficulties and declining health. On April 8, 1975, after a triumphant performance marking 50 years on stage, she suffered a cerebral hemorrhage and slipped into a coma. Days later, she quietly passed away in a hospital room at Pity Salpêtrière Hospital. No partner, no close family at her side. Josephine Baker, who spent her life championing love, justice, and compassion, left this world alone, a poignant reminder that even legends sometimes fade in solitude. Barbara Jordan, a trailblazing politician whose voice once thundered through the halls of Congress, yet fell silent too soon. Born in Houston, Texas, in 1936, she rose to prominence in the 1960s and 70s as one of the first Black women elected to the U.S. Congress. Barbara became the commanding voice of the civil rights movement, renowned for her impassioned speeches, none more legendary than her words during the impeachment hearings of President Nixon. But behind the public acclaim, her private life remained carefully guarded. Barbara was a lesbian in a long-term relationship with Nancy Earle, a truth she never revealed publicly, fearing the harsh scrutiny and discrimination of the political world. By the mid-1980s, her battle with multiple sclerosis began, later compounded by leukemia and chronic pneumonia. Her illness eventually confined her to a wheelchair, yet her spirit remained indomitable. On January 17, 1996, Barbara Jordan passed away from pneumonia complications in a hospital in Austin, Texas, surrounded by Nancy Earle and a few close friends. The woman who had stood as a national symbol for justice and equality departed quietly, her full identity still a secret from a public that never truly knew her. Mabel Hampton. Mabel Hampton, a tireless freedom fighter, passed away from exhaustion. Born in 1902 in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, she first made her mark as a celebrated dancer during the Harlem Renaissance of the 1920s and 1930s. In the decades that followed, Mabel became a pioneering activist for the LGBTQ+ community in New York, turning her own life story into a powerful tool for equality and social justice. As one of the few openly gay women of her time, she shared a remarkable 46-year love with her partner, Lillian Foster, a love she proudly recounted at community events and conferences, inspiring countless others. After Lillian's death in 1978, Mabel lived alone in a modest New York City apartment. In her later years, she battled chronic lung disease, a harsh reminder of years of labor and difficult living conditions. Without health insurance and relying on the support of her community, she became physically and mentally worn down. On October 26, 1989, Mabel passed away alone, leaving behind a life defined by courage and resilience. When her body was discovered, the room held only old love letters and cherished mementos of Lillian, a silent testament to a love society had too often overlooked. The lives of brave Black LGBTQ+ pioneers like Mabel Hampton remind us of the cost of living authentically in the face of prejudice. Their stories leave us with both profound sorrow and deep reflection. Which of these legacies moves you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so we can honor the invaluable contributions they left behind.